what happens is underneath everything we have some causal emotion. Causal emotion is like grief, shame, sadness, those kind of emotions. Causal emotion, they were created in us when we were very, very young children, usually, right the way up through our childhood and sometimes into our teenage years. And it's all those emotions that actually generate our law of attraction. Now, even the ones that haven't been here before, have you heard of the term law of attraction? Most people have, yeah? The law of attraction is based around what's going on at you in your causal emotion. So in other words, when I feel something inside of my soul, which is all causal emotions, something related to my childhood, those particular emotions, whether I am aware of it or not, and perhaps if we can maybe just open up one of those side doors so that people can come in on the side, yeah. And whether I feel those causal emotions or not, they generate my law of attraction. So my whole life is governed by these causal emotions, whether I am aware those emotions exist inside of me or not. Right? And this is what a lot of people call the subconscious, you know? And it's that causal emotion that generates everything. Now on top of that, we usually have blocking emotions. These are the emotions that we were taught to use, usually via our parents, but also by our environment. We were taught to use these blocking emotions to avoid the experience of the causal emotions. Now, the biggest blocking emotions are fear-related. Your fear. I'm terrified of dealing with this emotion, and so straight away I'm now blocking the experience of that emotion. Now the fear creates all of my problems when it comes to my body. So that my body will start to close down in different areas related to the different emotions, the causal emotions that I'm not experiencing. So you see this happening as we grow older and older, different parts of our body start shutting down. So, you know, you might have been fit young when you were young, but when you're getting to 40 or 50, you start feeling, and the doctors start diagnosing, they might have heart attack issues, for example. So heart problems. And a lot of these problems are so-called generational because they are passed down from parents to children through their emotional set. So here I am feeling these emotions, and or usually not feeling them, but passing them down from parent to child. And so I'm growing up now and I get into my later years and my body starts packing up. And my body's packing up because I am suppressing the actual causal emotions that if released, my body would operate perfectly. I would have no pain, sleep fine every night, have no tablets to take, no medication to take, all of those different things. None of that would happen. But because I've got these blocking emotions, and in particular the fear, what happens is that these causal emotions never get addressed. They never get released. And so it's like carrying around lead weights with you for the rest of your life. Now, you can do that while you're fit and healthy and, you know, as you're growing up, but the longer a lead weight is carried, the harder it is to carry, right? And that applies to your body too. So there's this whole series of blocking emotions, of which fear is probably the most dominant, that cause you to suppress your causal emotion. But often what happens on top of that is we have another layer. And this other layer is the layer that is our little indicator layer, I'd like to call it sometimes. These are the denials, which are also emotions. So they're denial emotions. Now, the one I would like to talk about particularly today is anger. Now, remember in previous discussions I've always said anger includes annoyance, slight annoyance, frustration, and all those kind of things too. So we're not just talking about I'm in a rage, I'm talking about everything from rage right the way down to slight annoyance. that all I'm going to bundle together as anger. Now, they are denial emotions. The anger, so if we look at anger in particular, is the method we use to suppress our fear or to deny our fear even exists. Now, one of the things I've noticed is that many of the people who have been hearing about the Divine Love Path for the last 12, 18 months or so, many of you have started to deal with some emotions, but then get stuck in this anger, right? And we're getting stuck in anger because we want to avoid our blocking emotions, which is our fear primarily about something. And our fear is helping us get away from our causal emotions. Now, if you look at this from the point of view of changing your law of attraction, so even if you don't want to involve God in the process and all you want to do is just be happier, your happiness is directly dependent upon your causal emotion. In other words, what's happening to you day-to-day life is that your soul is attracting all of the events around you. Every single moment, your soul is continually sending out all these different signals, right? And all of these things that come to you, all of the events that happen to you, are all because of your causal emotion. They're not necessarily because of your blocking emotions, and they're not necessarily because of your denial emotions. They all start at your causal emotional area. Now, blocking emotions can also create, but if you get rid of the causal emotion, you'll never have a blocking emotion to create. So if we focus on this particular part here, we can rapidly change our law of attraction so that we can be happy quite quickly. But the problem is that for the majority of us is we've got this anger first, and then there's fear, and then there's the emotion. And many of you have heard that the emotions that are the healing emotions are really grief-based emotions, right? And then on top of the grief, we've got the fear of the grief. And then on top of that, we've got the anger about the fear of the grief. And so what we're doing a lot of times is we're working in this level where we're angry all the time, or we're annoyed, or even slightly annoyed, or we even go one step further to all of this. And this is the place that a lot of New Age type philosophies recommend you go to. You go into denial of the denial emotion. Right? The denial emotion is anger, and you go into denial of your own anger. So you talk to a person, you're very angry. No, I'm not. Right? And you've got all this rage coming out of them. You know, you can feel it coming out of them a lot of times, right? Just being with them is uncomfortable, and yet they'll say, no, I'm not angry. And why do they do that? Because they're now using the intellect to actually suppress all emotion. Right? Now, when we get into that state where we start suppressing like anger, and which is suppressing fear and so forth, that's when we're starting to get into the depressive states as well, where we start suppressing all emotion, and all depression actually is a result of our desire to suppress anger-based emotions. Does that make sense? So you've got this layer upon layer thing happening. Most people, you know, you've heard about other people talk about it with regard to onion layers, if you like, and things like that. How you think about it is up to you. What I'm trying to do today and this weekend is to address this area here, this area of blocking emotions and the area of the emotions of denial. Because what I've found myself is that if I address those areas, once I get rid of them, all of the causal emotions just pop out of me like no effort at all. If I don't address them, those causal emotions frustrate the hell out of me. Right? You notice that with your own emotional processing. You're trying to access an emotion, and my suggestion is, if you're trying to access an emotion, give up on trying. Don't bother trying anymore, because you've got a block. And rather than, you know, many of us know, oh, I'm sad about my mother dying, for example. Or I'm sad about my child dying when he was 2. Or I'm sad about, you know, what happened when I was in childhood abuse. I'm sad about, you know, these different events. Many of us know what we're sad about, but we can't feel the sadness. And the reason why we can't feel the sadness is because of these layers that we've got on top that need to firstly be removed. And it's those layers that prevent the emotional experience, right? So, let's look at this process. I'm saying that we're at the stage now where we're no longer deciding to use our intellect anymore. Have you made that choice yet? Right? No longer give up the intellect, just no longer decide to use the intellect. That's the place where you're no longer going to meditate yourself out of an emotion. Do you know what I mean by that? Like calm yourself down, you know, or even go along to some kind of therapist who gets you out of the emotion by doing whatever they do. And you come away feeling really good, but 3 days later you're not feeling good again and you feel like you've got to go back. So you go back and lay on the table and have the same thing done again. You go out feeling good, and then 2 days later you're not feeling good again. So you go back, and we become addicted even to the process of feeling good in that state. In the end, we need to address the cause. If we address the cause, we'll address the cause and we'll feel good all the time on that issue. We won't have to go back anywhere. Our body won't have to have the same pains in it anymore. All of those things change. So what I'm finding with my body is that if I don't deal with an issue, my body lets me know now really rapidly. And many of you are finding that too? Really rapidly, it's shown to me what's going on. And the key is to listen to your body. Your body's a very good barometer of what you're denying. Right? So I go along and do some spiritual work or some emotional work, and I used to have headaches, and then I go along and do the work, and for a week or two I still have headaches, and then I don't have headaches, and then I start getting headaches again. Is the cause dealt with? No. Quite simple. Right? Do you find you have these like little pains in your knees, you know, like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I have them, you know, where you got a pain in the knee and all of a sudden you're working away and all of a sudden your knee sort of goes clunk or whatever it is, and from then on it starts to hurt. And this happens on a regular basis. It doesn't happen anymore for me, but it used to happen on a very regular basis. I haven't dealt with the emotion, whatever that's about. Right? There's an emotion related to that. Right? Everything is based upon a soul-based denial of an emotion or the acceptance of one. In my case at the moment, I've got terrible bowel pains. Right? So that anybody who comes out to my house knows that flatulation is the way of the game, right? And that's the way it goes. Because I've got these emotions connected to this unworthy feeling that I have about myself in relation to my soulmate, right? So that's there pretty constantly. Have I dealt with it? No, because it's still happening, right? Every now and then, what happens is, I don't know if you've noticed today, but my thumb is cracking again. Every time, and then it happens again. So I think I've dealt with emotion, and then a month later, my thumb cracks again. So I haven't dealt with the emotion. I know what it's about, but I still haven't got to the end of it, the cause of it. My body's telling me constantly. Right? And your body's doing the same. It's just whether we notice it or not. That's the thing. So forget the intellect. The intellect's not very good. The only good thing about the intellect is it's a good way of helping you get back into the emotion. So your intellect can help you get out of your emotion, or you can use your intellect to help you get back into your emotion. It's up to you which way you use it. It's just a tool.